Hello, for the sixth grade. This is your history video for Tuesday, April 27th. Only like 29 days left after today, or 26, 28 days. I can't remember exactly, but going by fast. But today you're going to have two work text pages, if I'm not mistaken. They are, actually just one, page 201. That's right, this is the lanterns that you're going to be doing. It starts on page, what they say is page 276, but really it starts on page 277. But it talks about some of the things about writing and some of the other ways of write in Japan. So we'll start there in 277. It says, most likely when you learned to write, you learned how to print first. Then you began to learn cursive. Perhaps later you even learned some calligraphy, a type of decorative handwriting. In ancient Japan, there were several kinds of writing, or shodo, all of them a kind of calligraphy. One style was kaisho, a block style of writing with plain symbols. Another style was sosho, a sweeping cursive style. When you write, you probably use a pen or pencil. In ancient Japan, people wrote with a fude, maybe, a brush similar to a modern watercolor brush and made from rabbit or raccoon hair, or a weofude, a thinner brush of horse or deer hair. The paper you write on is smooth. The ancient Japanese liked textured paper. It was made by thoroughly soaking bark, husks, or bamboo in water and then draining off the water. When dried, these materials formed a rough, thick paper. The Japanese created ink by rubbing in a sumi, a stick made of soot and glue scented with cloves or other spices, against a suzuri, a rough stone, by adding water. To the ancient Japanese, writing was an art that produced music without sound. Often, however, musicians were playing actual music nearby. Miyu is learning kaisho by watching her mother. Yumiko, the other noblewoman, is telling stories about the imperial court. Outside, Miyu's brother, Ayumu, is copying the moves of the master swordsman. Miyu sometimes wonders if learning to use a sword might be easier than writing. To master kaishu and sosho, she may have to practice every day for more than 20 years. Pretty long time to be able to practice writing. And Japanese language is not easy. It's one of the more difficult ones to learn. So, all right, on to page 278. And it starts off here about Japanese history. Located in the northeastern coast of Asia, an ancient tribal people rose to power. The civilization of Japan would help shape modern history. The name Japan comes from the Chinese word Jipun, which means origin of the sun. Japan is an archipelago. The four main islands of Japan are Hokkaido, Honshu, Shikoku, and Kyushu. For centuries, Japan was isolated from the rest of the world by the siege of Japan and the Pacific Ocean. Early history. Little is known of Japan's early history. Like other nations, the Japanese people did not keep records during the early development of their civilization. Like the ancient Greeks and Romans, the Japanese passed down their early history through legends and myths. For centuries, these stories shaped Japan's culture. One myth tells of how the Japanese believe life began. A god and a goddess dipped a jeweled spear into the ocean. The drops that fell from the spear formed the islands of Japan, where the god and the goddess lived. Their children were the Japanese people. Even today, some of the Japanese believe they are descendants of gods. All right, and then on the next page there, this is your region page. It talks about location. Japan is an archipelago of over 6,800 islands in the Pacific Ocean. It is to the east of China and Korea. All right, so you see that there are just so many small islands, of course, they couldn't even put on there. Climate. Northern and southern Japan vary in climate. Southern Japan is generally warmer. Averaging temperatures range from winter lows of 21 degrees Fahrenheit in the north to summer highs of 79 degrees Fahrenheit in the south. Annual precipitation is an average of 50 inches. That's a good bit of precipitation. Japan is made up of four main islands and many smaller islands that are the peaks of submerged mountains. The Japanese Alps on the island of Honshu include Mount Fuji, Japan's highest mountain. Many of Japan's mountains are volcanoes. Japan has few natural resources. The mountainous terrain leaves less than 15% of land that can be farmed. There are deposits of coal, zinc, copper, lead, and gold. Several short, swift rivers are used to provide electricity and to irrigate rice paddies. All right, on to the next page, 280, which is our last page, I believe. Yep. All right. And so that one says early settlers. The earliest settlers of Japan likely migrated from northeastern Asia. People have found pieces of pottery that might have been made by these early settlers. Most of this pottery has a cord or rope design. Because there were no pottery wheels, clay was formed into a rope. As the artisan coiled the clay rope upward, the pottery took shape. Some archaeologists have named these early people the Jomon, which means cord pattern. The Jomon, the Jomon were probably hunters, fishers, and gatherers of plants for food. Excavations suggest that agriculture first developed with the cultivation of rice near the end of the Jomon period. Let me show you another one. At the top there says another group of immigrants also came to Japan. They mingled with the Jomon. Archaeologists call these immigrants the Yayoi. Some historians believe the Yayoi are primary ancestors of the Japanese people. Villages in Japan developed along freshwater sources. The Yayoi borrowed a form of irrigation from the Japanese called wet paddy farming to grow rice. Artifacts suggest that the Yayoi were advanced in their craftsmanship. During the Middle Yayoi period, artisans continued to make pottery using a clay rope and coiling it upward. The surfaces and edges were smoothed with a tool. Then the pottery was painted red and polished until it was glossy. They also used bronze to create coins, bells, tools, weapons, and mirrors. They also cast iron objects. All right, clans at the bottom there. It says by 200 BC, the Japanese people had divided into clans. Each clan had its own warrior chieftain who protected his people from other clans. In return for protection, the people gave part of their rice harvest to the chieftain. Each clan also had its own land and god. You see some fish hooks from the Jomon people with a harpoon made from bone, and food was made. It asks you what food was a major part of Japanese diet during the Jomon period, and it was obvious that it would be fish or some kind of fishing type of thing. And then you have that Yayo cast bronze bells with no clappers, which clappers are the not people who are on the outside who are cheering on people, but the clappers are the things that bang against the inside of a bell. If you have a bell that has a clapper, which like this dotaku, which has a height of 43.5 inches, so that's 4 feet tall. That's a pretty big bell. It says what may have been the purpose of a silent bell. Well, you could also hit it from the outside. I would imagine would be one thing that you could do. But dotaku is your secret word, so you can write that one down. All right, that's it for today. And thanks for doing your work and everything, and look forward to seeing you guys as soon as I can. Have a good day. Bye.